Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to our first event for the Research Office and Grant. My name is Hamad Al-Sabr. I am the Assistant Director for the Office and Grant, for the Research and Office and Grant. A warm welcome to respected faculty, staff, and students. Special thanks to our guest today, Professor Ali Bumajdad, Dr. Hamad Alaslawi, and Dr. Yousef Al-Abdullah. It's an honor to have such accomplished researcher among us. Thank you for accepting our invitation to participate in this event. Our event, it's called a panel discussion, How to Write a Successful Research Proposal. First, we will start with Professor Ali Bumajdad. He will present a small talk about how to write a successful research proposal. Then we will start our panel discussion with our guest speaker. Professor Ali Bumajdad. He received his PhD from University of Bristol in 2000. His specialty is related to nanomaterials and nanotechnology, with focus on surface and collateral properties of nanomaterials. In his research, he targeted materials with environmental and renewable energy. Professor Bumajdad is a frequent reviewer to over 50 international journals in the field of nanotechnology and surface chemistry. Now we will start our first guest speaker regarding this event. Please, Dr. Ali Bumajdad, you can come and present your talk.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I would like to start first with to thank Dr. Hamad Sabr and AUK for inviting me to give this presentation and to participate in this panel discussion. As you see, the title is about making a successful research proposal. I will try to make it short, around 10 to 12 minutes. I want to show you at the beginning the manpower component usually of any research project. You should know that there is principal investigator who take the whole responsibility or the main responsibility of the project. And then there is a co-investigators. This can be internal from the same institute, it can be, or from the same country, can be external, and can be non-resident, not in Kuwait, for example. You can have also a contributor in the project. This is the case when you have certain tasks in your project that you cannot do it, you don't have the experience with it, and you want to include a contributor to do this task only. You can have consultant if you have important project which is very complicated and you think you need a consultant to advise you about your project and the progress of the project. You can assign a consultant. Of course, you will need a researcher, especially if you work in a lab or on a computer. You need usually a researcher to do the work. And the researcher usually can have different background with different education certificate, has a PhD or a master or even a BSc or a diploma. And in the project, you have to assign budget for these different kind of researcher according to the funding agency. So, for example, if you're applying to Kuwait University, they have different salaries for PhD holder or master holder or BSc holder. And if you apply through KISR, for example, maybe they have different salaries. It is always good to have a postgraduate student in your work. If you can have master student or PhD student, this will be an added value, and this will encourage actually the local fund agency to support you because this could be considered as a capacity building. How to select the research topic? This is the most important part actually. You have to start with a topic that is novel and new and important and of a certain interest. We cannot just select a topic that is, for example, trivial or not very important. Otherwise, you'll have very weak chance to get approval. The reviewers of the proposal usually search for the novelty or originality of your work that you want to do. So novel topic that you like. You cannot work with something that you are not experienced or you don't like. So you should select something that you like. This topic should be reflected in your curriculum vitae, because the reviewer will look to your CV, and one of the questions usually the reviewer will be asked to make sure you are capable of doing such research. So if you select something far away from your field of experience, they might not approve it because they think you cannot fulfill the objectives or the goals. So let's say you don't have the experience, you can include a co-investigator in this case with the project. So you can say, although I don't have this experience because I am junior faculty member, but I have a contributor who will help me, or co-investigator will help me in this task. Or you can do preliminary work, perform some experiment, and you say, I don't have publication so far, but look, I have some result, very promising result on the same topic. I just want fund to continue the work. I just mentioned here an example to show you the difference between important and novel. There is a laser here, or? It doesn't matter. You can see the circle here. The trivial work usually means you just do a certain work, and then you design what we call it next step research or next step proposal. This is a mistake. So you did A and B, and now you want to do B and A, for example. Or you did modeling with certain, let's say, application, and you want to do exactly the same model, but for slightly different applications. This is called next step proposal, not encouraged actually, and they don't like it. The funding agency, they like to come with the new ideas, a new proposal. So what do you need to do before starting writing the proposal? You have to make sure you have the time at the beginning. If you are very busy, you cannot do research. You have to read the literature related to the topic that you selected, and you have to read the funding agency regulation and criteria for evaluation. This is very important. Common mistake happen actually when you just write a proposal and you don't know, or you are not aware of the funding agency regulations. The funding agency have certain category for the budget, have certain regulation for the criteria for the evaluations. They want, for example, some agency would like you to make sure the project have some relation to Kuwait. Some other institute or some funding agency, they don't like you. They don't want, or they don't insist of the application to Kuwait. Some agency, they select certain topics. For example, here you can see in KISR, they are selecting 5 topics: energy, environment, digital, health, and infrastructure. And these topics change from time to time, actually. And under each of these general topics, there is subtopics also. So you have to go to their website and read what they support. Same apply to Kuwait and to KISR. Kuwait University and KISR, we have also certain topics. We call it priority topics that we will encourage people to do work on this. You have to locate the available resources at your institute or in the country. And also you have to perform some preliminary work if you can do that. You have to know the budget criteria and also the evaluation criteria. Now, what is the proposal component? The proposal starts with the title and abstract. These are the beginning of the proposal. You have to have a background, goals or objectives, importance, especially to Kuwait. This will be an added value. The methodology, in my opinion, is the most important part of the project. If you don't write a good methodology or a good experimental, let's say, description, you will not be able to get a fund. This is very important. This is the major part, the core of the proposal. You can publish some preliminary work if you have, and you should have a plan B or contingency plan. That is a plan that if something goes wrong in your software or in your equipment or in your material, you should have a plan to maneuver and to go over this, let's say, problems. This is called the plan B. You should have a task schedule, assign the task for each researcher or each contributor or co-investigator in your research team. You should have project manpower, of course, as I told you, researcher with PhD or master. The budget, you should also put the budget information related to the salaries of manpowers, expenses, operation expenses, consumables, and capital expenditure if you want to buy certain large equipment or computers, etc. And of course, you have to tell them what is the expected productivity and what is the, let's say, the capacity building that you are trying to achieve, how many students you are going to train. Even undergraduate student training is good, actually. So even if you can involve some for the undergraduate student, will be a capacity building. How to make sure your proposal is clear and effective. Think like a reviewer when you write the proposal. You think what should I write to convince the reviewer actually to accept my project and fund it. So this is the start, actually. You have to always answer what, why, and how. This is what I always mention. In the proposal, you have to mention what is your goals, objectives, why you want to do, why you want to achieve such goals or to fill such gaps in the literature, and how you are going to do it. This is the methodology. Why you are going to do it, you put it in the introduction and background. How you are going to do it, you put it in the methodology. And you have to make sure you don't miss goals. You have to explain all the the methodology, you have to explain where you are going to achieve such goals, okay? The title should be very specific, but not too long. You have to make it short and specific. Don't make it very general. This will not be a good one. And don't make it very long also. 3 lines or 4 lines is too much. Usually should be, I will say, maximum 12 words or 15 words at maximum. The abstract should be short, concise, that will talk about your motivation, why you want to do the work, what is the sample that you are going to to prepare or to use, what's the techniques, whether it is available or not, and what is the expected finding or what is your hypothesis, for example, in your research. So very concise, around 250 words or 350 words. Avoid using references and other issues. How to make sure your proposal is clear and effective. You have to make it simple. Don't make it with difficult language. There is a saying, actually, usually the reviewers say to their colleagues, if the proposal was not written in a good English or clear English, that means he don't understand what he want to do. So it's bad impression about your proposal if you write it in a bad English. So always ask your colleagues, for example, to read it after you finish from the proposal. You have to use figure diagrams, tables, very good in the proposal, very nice. It will help the reviewer to understand your project. Don't keep the reviewer searching for the information. Make it for him very simple, very direct. Use clear heading, subheading, and short paragraphs. Don't make very long paragraphs, for example, 2-page paragraph or 1-page paragraph. Divide it into subheadings. This will be much better for the reviewer. Research plan should be describe how goals will be met in your methodology. Describe how you are going to meet all the goals that you are promising. And you have, of course, to have a good CV and focus on this CV actually on the research. The reviewer will not be very much interested in your teaching because you want to evaluate your research proposal, not a teaching proposal. So focus on research and your experience, of course, or workshop or training. And of course, if you have preliminary work, this will be always good. Mention clearly the advantage and limitations also of your work or of your proposed work. So don't always mention the advantage and some limitations. This will give the impression to the reviewer that you are realistic. You don't want to promise something that you cannot achieve. Tasks should be split clearly between the investigators. So if you have co-investigator, you have to tell exactly what he's going to be responsible for. So task 1 will be responsible for co-investigator, for example, and task 2 will be under my responsibility. Task 3, I have a contributor to do it, for example, etc. Proposed research, this is a common mistakes actually happen during writing the proposal. Proposed research is not novel or not interest. You are killing your proposal if you select an idea not novel from the beginning or not original or it's been done before or it's not very important. So start with the good idea. Methodology not appropriate or not clear. make the methodology very clear, and you mention all the information that the reviewer will look after. You should also make sure that your research team is qualified. Don't select someone who is not qualified. So you select a co-investigator, but he's not qualified in the task that you are assigned to him. This is a mistake. You should make proof to the reviewer that this co-investigator has the qualification that I needed in my project. Usually you can write a paragraph in the proposal, and of course you have to include his CV so the reviewer can make sure you select the right team. Goals cannot be achieved. You want to make a nuclear reactor, for example, in Kuwait. This cannot be achieved. You have to select realistic goals and also achievable goals. Maybe you select realistic, but too many goals that you cannot achieve within 2 years or 3 years of the project. You have to make sure the time frame is suitable for such goals. The required funding, too high or too small. If you select the wrong budget, you select very minor budget that the reviewer think you cannot achieve the goals with this very minor budget, he will reject it. Or you select a huge budget that you think, that make the reviewer think you just want to furniture your lab at the expense of the funding agency. Funding agencies are not coming actually supporting you to furniture your lab. They are supporting you to fulfill the goals that you are promising in the proposal. No plan B, contingency plan. This is most of the field need a plan B. You are not aware of the risk or ethical issues in your work. This is a common mistake. The role of each member of the team is not clear. So you have a team, but you don't assign the rules for them. References are outdated. You have 50 references in your proposal. The last one is in 2010, while you are submitting this proposal in 2021, for example. You should have very recent references also. Background is very general, insufficient, for example, or inappropriate. It should be specific, the background. The background actually is like a funnel. You start with the problem and what's been done and what you want to do. Or explaining the problem, what's been done, where is the gap that you want to fill, something like this. You are missing the right partner. You have goals that you cannot achieve by yourself, and you don't assign a right consultancy or a right partner in the project. This is a very short talk, around 10 minutes I think I took. So thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll have some more questions during the discussion panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ali, for your excellent presentation. Of course, we will get the beneficial of your presentation. So now we will start our panel discussion with our guest speaker. We have Dr. Hamad Alaslawi. Dr. Hamad Alaslawi, he is Assistant Professor of Social Work and was the head of the Research and Statistics Unit in the College of Social Sciences, Kuwait University. His PhD in Social Work from University of Kentucky. His special interests include pattern women, counseling families and children. Also, we have Dr. Yousef Al-Abdullah. Dr. Yousef Al-Abdullah is associated research in scientist in the Energy and Building Research Center at the Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research. He received his PhD in electrical engineering from Arizona State University in 2016. Now we will start our panel discussion. Dr. Iyad, please.
Ahmed, let the audience know what's the question, and then you can...
Yes, okay. Now we have a question for the audience. We will share with you the barcode. You can just capture the barcode, and there is a question for you. Just please, if you can answer this question. It's a poll question just to see, did you submit a fund research proposal before? Yes or not? That's why this is the only question. Should be under which?
Small box, not as zero.
Okay. Yes. So now, inshallah, we will start our panel discussion with our guest speaker.
Yeah. Hamad, you can show them the questions also. All right, again, I would like to thank you for attending this panel discussion. So this poll here actually shows that 53% of our audience, they already submitted a funding research proposal before, which is a good thing. So you're already aware of the process and what are the things that are needed to do such kind of proposal. Now, what we will do during the panel discussion is I'll be asking some questions that our office prepared for this panel discussion, and also there's some questions that has been submitted by our audience. So we received these questions actually during the registration, and we'll be asking them for our guests. The other thing is, during the panel discussion, Ahmed will be showing you also another QR code that you can use it to also post any question that you would like to ask them after we finish our questions that we have here. Okay? So the first question is, let me ask this for Dr. Yousef. So Dr. Yousef, in your opinion, what are the most important aspects to focus on when preparing a research proposal?
Thank you, Dr. Iyad. Really appreciate the question. First of all, I'd like to bring up Dr. Ali and what he brought up. It's very, very important that if you have a granting institution in mind, for example, KISR, follow their guidelines. This is the most important thing, because if you don't, it will be rejected. So for example, National Science Foundations, they have an automated system. Anything above 15 pages, automatically rejected by the system, all right? And now it's much easier, actually, with KISR. They have everything up there on a SharePoint, and they even have a tutorial on how to use their system and how to submit your proposal as well. So I wanted to bring that up. The other point that Dr. Ali brought up that was also, I thought, very good was in the background and literature review. The background and literature review is to set up the problem that you want to solve. And this is to give context to what you want to work on. I would like to just highlight one more thing. You can use review articles to help you build your background and your literature review. A literature review is not just listing what everybody else did. It's the setup. And so review articles help contextualize, give the latest research, and all the papers that are on a specific topic. And these are gold mines for your background and literature review as well.
Yeah, these are great points, actually. Thank you, Dr. Yousef.
Because Dr. Ali did such a great job beforehand.
Yeah. Dr. Ali actually is a figure here in Kuwait, mashallah, in presenting how to write successful research proposal. The second question is for Dr. Hamad. So how can you motivate collaborators from top research institutions to work with you on the research proposal? We know that in KISR, for example, if you want to have the collaborators to be PI or co-PI, usually they don't have salary, right? But if you have them as consultant, then they can have salary, but they cannot be part of the authors that are in the publication that you have. So how we can motivate collaborators from these top research institutions to be interested to collaborate with us when we are preparing the funding proposal?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, I want to thank you all, Dr. Iyad, Dr. Ahmed, for having us here, and thank you for the audience for their interest. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be here with you and being part of this event. Regarding your question, Dr. Iyad, first of all, it's very important to find the mutual interest between us as a researcher and the other institutes. And as Dr. Ali mentioned and Dr. Yousef mentioned, we are building a case. Once we dig into the literature, we are building a case. So we got to grab the reader attention. We got to create the excitement in the reader. And we have to convince the reader why it's important. And before all of that, our research, as Dr. Ali mentioned, it has to be very authenticated, and very original, very fresh, not outdated. Some topics are consumed. You are not adding something, you're not adding value to the body of literature. So having a mutual interest, creating the excitements for the reader and for the institutes, probably that would end up with a good agreement or a good proposal. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Hamad, for your answer. Dr. Ali, I would like to follow up on that question also. So I would like to add, now we know that in these kind of top research institutions, usually they have their own PhD students, their master students, and their own research environment. So in your opinion, would it be enough to just have a mutual, you can say, interest between you and them and approach them about a novel idea, or there's something more that we need to do?
I think participating in conferences, for example, international or even local conferences, might help you in knowing new collaborators and work with them. This is my personal experience. I did a lot of work with people I met in a conference in Kuwait and in other conferences internationally. So it's very helpful and very useful. If you go and present your work, people will ask you, and then you find there is some mutual interest between you and the other guy, and you tell him, okay, I can do that. Why you don't give me your samples, and we'll try to do this application, for example, in my institute. So this is the beginning. Inviting the professors also from abroad to visit the university and meet and see the facilities, because usually the people from good institute, they want to make sure you are a good researcher. So you have to tell them that we have a good institute and I am a good researcher. This is my CV, I have experience, I work with your colleague, for example, in the UK or in the United States. This way you will convince them to work with you. Of course, don't go for very senior professors. Usually it's very hard to convince them, but you can work with, let's say, less senior professors in Europe or in Middle East or in the Asia countries. And I succeeded in many collaborations with all over the world. I started from conferences and from inviting some professors to Kuwait, and we meet and we show him our work. And then we take it from there. We just write a common proposal, and he's a co-investigator, I am PI, and we publish together. So this is my opinion.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. My next question is for Dr. Yousef again. So, in your opinion, can the researcher find easily very good research assistants to work on the project here in Kuwait? And what do you recommend to have such kind of good research assistant?
Well, coming from the Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research, we don't have a lot of access to research assistants, to be honest. But when you are at you here at AUK, You have access to students, lots of students. How many thousand students attend AUK this year? You know.
This year only, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm not
Well, it's okay,
sure.
but I mean, but this. Yeah.
The total number of students. He is asking this year only. I think.
Yeah. But still, this is an opportunity, actually. So, you know, it's actually very, very advantageous for you and for the student if, for example, the research proposal becomes their master's thesis. So this is a very, and they would learn analytical skills, they'd learn how to conduct research, and you would be their mentor. So it's a very good symbiotic relationship, actually, in this case. So you have a very excellent opportunity for this. And KFAS, if you saw their latest call for proposals, they're encouraging this as well.
My actually question about this is because many of the private institutions here in Kuwait, they don't have graduate programs. So and even if they have graduate programs, it will be only for some departments, let's say, or for some domains. So in the case that we still don't have graduate programs, for example, so how we can find a very good research assistant, let's say?
Well, it is the graduate program, because this is where a lot of research universities in the United States run their research through the graduate students, actually. So this is prime, actually, for you to set up your graduate programs so that you can lead different research topics, and you could allocate, grants through scholarships, for, tuition waivers and such, actually. So, otherwise, the other opportunities you're going to have to interview candidates and hire them. And there are certainly a lot of Kuwaitis here looking for work to do as well.
Thank you, Dr. Yousef. My next question is for Dr. Hamad. So how long do you think usually it will take to develop a good research proposal?
Well, it depends, on the nature of your research, whether your research experimental, semi-experimental, cross-sectional, whatever, and it depends on, how many questions you want to answer. Yeah, it depends on your methodology. So there is a lot of factors determine how long it's going to take. And in addition to that, how much time you're going to spend on your research. Yeah, and how many research assistants do you have, or how many resources you are able to access. So yeah, there is a lot of factors determine that. But I found an article, very very interesting article. It talks about how to write a good proposal and the common problems of a poorly written proposal. I would like to share with you. It says that the proposal reports so what. So this is very interesting question. Your ability to answer this question, so what? Once you get to that question in your proposal and you can't answer this question, that means you have, go back and read more. You have to work more on your research, because the reviewers of your research or the institutes that you are, asking, to fund this research, once they get to that question, so what? That means you're not doing a well job on your proposal. The study, it's not fresh, or it's not original, or it's timely, or not significant. And the other thing is the field sometime has moved on to other hot topics. The research must be timely and must address an important questions of interest to the audience. The rationale and methodology for the study are weak. There are minimal, if any, citations to lend theoretical and or methodological support to the study. So these common problems also determine how long it's gonna take you to, to fund your proposal or to write a successful proposal. So yeah, this is my answer. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hamad. Yes, I agree with you that it depends on your experience with the research also, so maybe you need to read more, let's say, and also about how many collaborators with you. Sometimes if you have more collaborators, it would reduce the time also to do the proposal and to prepare it. My next question for Dr. Ali. We know that in Kuwait here, the available funding agency is KIFS. But I want to ask you, because you have been working on applying for funding, a proposal and so on for a long time. So is there any other funding agencies here that are available in Kuwait other than KIFS?
Yes, I think Kuwait University also fund projects with co-investigator from local institute. Actually, they encourage people to have other investigators with good justification to be with him. I work also with many colleagues in KISR, for example, or I co-supervise also some student, PhD and master student, with external co-supervisor or internal co-supervisor. So all these actually possibles with Kuwait University. So why I go and seek, for example, a co-supervisor from European country, and I have a good calibers here in GUST or AUK or AUM, or so actually we need just to meet together, and we need to check whether there is some people working on similar field of mine, and we can collaborate. I have very good examples with one of my colleagues, with the professor in GUST. They submit a proposal to KIFS and they get funded, and they publish a huge number of publications in a very high rank journals because of this collaboration between GUST and Kuwait University. So it is possible to get a fund from Kuwait University, also not only from KIFS, but you have to find the right partner that you think you can work with. He will be the PI and you can be the co-I. You can also supervise a student with him. It's allowed by the College of Graduate Study at Kuwait University. So I think we have master students in all the departments, so you can easily find master student that you can co-supervise with the main supervisor at Kuwait University. So this is a way, actually. Can I comment on the question number 4 also? How to get a good researcher to work on the project. It's actually very hard in Kuwait to acquire a good researcher to work with you. If you have a good researcher, you have to keep holding him. I mean, don't lose him. After the project finished, try to find another project. Otherwise, he will go and find another job. I have many actually researcher that was well trained in my lab, but then he found a better job with better payment. The salary actually is not very good, not very encouraging to the researchers. So they apply for companies or for another teaching or academic institute, and they get better salaries. So unfortunately, it's not very easy. But the way I do it, I advertise on the web. I know some website that is, for example, very well known for chemical jobs, for example. So I advertise, I mention the salary and what is the type of project that I want them to work on. Usually you will get an applicant, but not from European, for example, or from America. You can get it from the Middle East or from Asia, country from India. Because of the salary, the maximum salary, according to Kuwait University, is 700 KD for a researcher. This is if you have a PhD. So if you have a master, they will give him 600, and bachelor degree will be even less. So it's not at all encouraging a good researcher with PhD holder to come to Kuwait, because usually they come as a single, actually. He cannot bring his family, he cannot teach his kids, because the cost will not be enough. They don't give him benefit also, like accommodations and tickets. So it's not easy, in my opinion. So if you have someone good, try to keep him happy. If you don't have, go for the postgraduate, supervise or co-supervise a student. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for adding for this, Dr. Ali. Yes, I agree with you that it's very hard to find good research assistant. Even if you find one, as you said, they will have better opportunity, or even they will leave to continue their PhDs and so on, so they will continue their work with another place. So I'll be now moving to the audience questions. The first question is from the registration link that we sent. So we received 2 questions. This question is open for all of you, so anyone who can answer it, it's fine. So the first question is, any recommendations about institutions in Kuwait that are reliable and conduct surveys? So I think this is about any kind of, let's say, center or place that can help in conducting surveying.
Actually, I don't have background with the statistics and surveys, but from my knowledge, you have to approach, for example, write a candidate from the Department of Statistics, for example. We have a Department of Statistics at Kuwait University, and maybe there is also at other universities or in KISR or private sector. I'm not sure if there is someone who can do the survey for you. I'm sure maybe there is, but I'm not aware of that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ali. You can add to that, yes, sure.
Well, there's a lot of companies out there in the market working on research, but very few, very less which are reliable. So once you want to, work or hire a company in the market, you got to study that company and who's working there in that company and how qualified they are. So yeah, because I have some experience with some good companies out there. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the person who asked this question, you can approach Dr. Hamad. Maybe we'll share their contact information later on, so you can approach him to ask him about the good companies. The next question from the audience is about the steps needed to obtain data in Kuwait, permissions needed from the Bureau of Statistics, for example. So is there any one of you where... Okay, it seems that you have a good experience with that.
I've had a lot of experience with this. No, it's not easy, actually. This is the thing, actually. If you need statistics that are not posted readily. So for example, I use a lot of the Ministry of Electricity and Waters, well, Ministry of Electricity, Water, Renewable Energy now. A lot of their statistics. If it's not in their statistical book, or for example, KMPC's or KOC book, you have to write an official letter that is signed by your Director General or your President, and it has to go to that institution. And then you gotta follow it up and make sure it gets to the right department, to the right person, so that you're talking to the right person to see if you can get that data, actually. So I've had a lot of experience on this through my work, and but inshallah, like for example, there is one thing. We do have a paucity of data in Kuwait. It is very difficult for researchers out there, and inshallah we will be posting when we finally get some good disaggregated energy statistics. We will hopefully
open it for the public.
Yeah, on the Central Statistical Bureau's website, so that you don't have to come ask me. It'll all be there, and it'll be all accessible, actually.
Yeah. So we can see that what Dr. Yousef is saying, that if it was available as statistical data, then it will be easily accessed. Actually, I know that, for example, in the environment, the Ministry of Environment, I think here in Kuwait,
EPA.
yeah, they already have some kind of statistical data that is available. You can just download it from their website, but you need to get a permission to have that. But yes, this is, thank you for telling us about the steps that we have to follow. Now we'll be moving into the questions that are coming live from the audience.
Yes, we have we have several questions from the audience. We will try to cover it all. The first question for Dr. Yousef: what are the topics of predilection in social sciences, such as sociology, beside political topics, more likely to be appreciated by the KISR nowadays?
Hello? Okay. More likely to be appreciated by KFS nowadays. Okay. It's always going to be in their call for proposals, actually. So so if you always look at the last call, it'll change next time, but it's always very slightly. I'm not aware of what they're looking for in the sociology, but Dr. Ali, you've certainly sent a lot of proposals to KFS, haven't you?
Yes, I think there is one topic, they call it infrastructure. This is topic, actually KFS opened 2 calls for research proposal. For 2021 now finished, I think they will open soon, maybe in January, the first call. And they select out of the 5, maybe they will select energy and health at the beginning, and maybe environment. And then they keep for the second call the infrastructure and information technology. The infrastructure is actually related to, for example, traffic problems in Kuwait, the effect of traffic, for example, on the psychology of people, for example. So maybe you can link it as social sciences. The infrastructure, I think, is a good idea to apply for, maybe.
Okay, another question. Can the research assistant be hired outside Kuwait and get paid? Anyone who can?
From Kuwait University, they don't accept to pay someone who work outside. They accept maybe to buy some chemicals or consumables, and maybe you send it to them. You buy it and you send it to abroad for doing some experiment, but they don't accept to pay someone working at other university. KFS, I am not sure about that actually. I cannot confirm this, but I think they might also not allow to transfer some money from Kuwait to another institute. The only things that I can say, the consultancy. If he's a consultant, you're not a research assistant, so it's not a salary. This is paid service to do something, to do one experiment that you don't have, for example, in Kuwait. Yes, this is acceptable by KFS. Okay.
Yeah, can I add something to that regarding the consultancy? Because I heard from some of the people who applied before to KFS that they said usually also, even for consultancy, they don't like to see it in the proposal, especially if it's for PhD holders, because they will feel that you are buying the time for the people to do the research for you. Is that the case?
Yes, I think this is the case actually. We don't want to give the impression to the funding agency that you are not capable of doing easy job and you want to hire someone from abroad to do the job for you. But you have to be careful. You have to tell, for example, this technology is not available in all of the, for example, GCC. It's not available in Kuwait or in the Gulf. Very sophisticated, but it's very beneficial to the proposal. I need a consultant to help me in this. If you justify it well, I think they will understand. If you just select a minor task you give to a consultant to pay him, this will be this will backfire to your proposal actually.
Okay.
May I add one thing actually about the consultancy?
Yes, sure.
There are times that we have gotten requests for work from certain institutions in Kuwait, government institutions in Kuwait, and in this case, consultancy is appropriate because if it's not continued work, there's no point in us actually putting the facilities for it, and that's why a consultancy is more appropriate. So that's when I feel the consultant is more appropriate. So for example, I think in the Shagaya project they used quite a bit of consultants over the years actually, because they weren't going to, the team that is a part of that is not going to be leading that after, inshallah, I don't know how, maybe this next year they'll turn it over to the ministry. So in that case, that's when the consultant is more appropriate.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question is, what advice would you give if we are in a field that is not part of the research priorities from the list of KFS? Would you still recommend we apply to KFS And if so, what approach is the best?
Well, I think the only thing is to do is to, is to tailor as best you can to one of the areas. And because KFAS is the main funding agency, but there are other agencies. I believe the United Nations here in Kuwait does it as well. Does have so. Going back to the sociology, maybe if it's something related to human, maybe that would be a more appropriate funder in that case.
I think the case that Dr. Ali mentioned before, in which you want to apply, for example, for sociology, and then you have a priority in transportation, then you need to find that kind of link that will allow you to, have the reviewer, when they look at your proposal, that they feel that it's one of the priorities that they mention in the call, right? What do you think, Dr. Ali?
Yes, actually, this is a new change in KFAS. They used to accept all type of topics, and they evaluate it, and then they will approve it or reject it. But now, since few years, they just say, okay, I will assign certain topics. I just want to fund certain topics. So that's why you have to adapt yourself for your research topic with one of these 5 fields: energy, environment, health, infrastructure, and information technology. And by the way, these topics might change. This was the topic in 2021. So we are waiting for the next call. Maybe they will change it. Maybe they will add a new. And there is subtopics also inside it. If you go to the website, under the infrastructure, you'll find like 5, 6 topics, and they put for you and others, for example. So you can fit in the others maybe. They don't tell you exactly all the topics. They will say like examples only. Okay?
Okay, Dr. Ahmed, I think we will take the last question because it's already. And for the remaining questions, by the way, we'll take them and send them for the guests by email, and we'll get the answers and then sending that to the faculty who attended. Thank you.
Okay, I think, yes, let me take this question. Are women currently taking part in this field in Kuwait in terms of either being part of the research team for a project or reviewing the project for funding?
Well, actually, my principal, actually, I'm led, my boss is a woman, Dr. Fatouh Al-Ragum. So, I mean, and most of my team consists of women, actually. So, I don't, in terms of either being part, I mean, so, for example, one of our research associates, she just did a poster on the metro, the latest, well, it was, unfortunately, this was for the metro that was canceled, and we had some reports, and we did a quick simulation on it, and we tried to present it, but then, it doesn't seem that they're too keen on that project anymore. So, and her name was Noor Al-Safi. So she did a really good job, in my opinion.
Yeah, Dr. Ali would like to add something.
As far as I know, there is no constraint about the gender in terms of research or in terms of reviewing process. They just look for the good candidate or good proposal. They don't look for the gender. So there is many research carried out by women now in Kuwait University, in KISR, and in other institutes. And I work with many also colleagues and publish with them work. And also in terms of reviewers, I know they send it to many international reviewers and sometimes local reviewers depending on the budget. If the budget is less than 10,000, the KFAS might seek a local reviewer from KISR or Kuwait University or private universities. But if it is above 10,000, maybe they will seek one external and one internal. If it is above 25,000, they seek two externals. And if you ask for above 50,000 KD, maybe they will seek 3 different opinions from external reviewers, but the gender is not playing any role here.
Thank you, Dr. Ali.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. Thank you all. Now we will close the panel discussion, and I will call Dr. Iyad Abu Doush, the Director of Research Office and Grant in the AUK, to certify our guest speaker for today. Dr. Ali Bumajdad, please. Dr. Hamad Alaslawi, please. Dr. Yousef Al-Abdullah. We also want to at the end of today, I would like to thank all our attendees and guests. Also, I would like to conclude with a few words to our graduates, to different departments at AUK who helped in preparing for this event. This include PR, purchasing office, dinner, and campus services. Thank you all. Thank you for your attendance. I wish you all the best, and inshallah we'll see you for our upcoming events. Thank you all.